What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about British things that just don't make any sense. Well, at least to us Americans. And that is because I think British people, you are much more exposed to American culture and you're much more educated about American culture than we are about British culture. I think that's true. So today, I really want to take a look at this list of stuff and things that are apparently normal in Britain by checking out this video by Adventures and Naps. This is British things that make sense to British people, but not to us Americans. So let's take a look.
The UK is full of British things that just make sense.
Oh.
To British people only. Hi everyone, it's me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alana and I'm a Canadian, but I have been living here in the UK for the last 7 years, and today I'm going to show you things that just make sense. But not really.
Okay, so this is a Canadian who has moved and now lives in the UK and all the weird stuff she's noticed. That sounds pretty fun.
Plugs. Do you mind if we talk about plugs for a few minutes?
Okay.
So welcome to the floor. This is like behind my chair where I normally film. Have a look at my plant. He's going crazy.
Okay.
Anywho, this is the floodlight that I use for most of my YouTube videos, like behind my chair. And it is plugged into this beautiful outlet here.
Okay. I think I already know what she's getting at because I have learned a little bit about British outlets and plugs in other videos. They are bigger, they're more robust, they actually have more safety features, and most of all, you have little switches on the wall itself that control the power to the outlet. That I mean, does that make no sense to me? It makes some sense. It's purely an extra feature if you want to turn your stuff on and off. I'm looking down at my plug and it looks so basic compared to this thing. But one thing that's confusing me here, looking at her outlets there, why is it an entire box like that? Why? It's not flush with the wall, like built into the wall. It's like a whole mechanical box. It's huge with a pipe coming out of it. Maybe it's because she just has a brick wall behind her, but in the United States, in American homes, you don't see such a big outlet. And by that I mean like coming out of the wall like this, a little box.
British things that just make sense. This.
Right.
This is so stupid, but I've never seen this before. Having power outlets.
Yeah.
Or power switches.
Yeah.
On plugs.
Right.
I'm not using the right word. I've never seen on-off switches, power switches on outlets.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally a British thing. I don't know if any other countries in the world do it like this. I'm not even really sure how this started in Britain, but I've heard about this, and it just comes across as like an extra feature, which seems nice.
Now, I can safely say that my vacuum back home in Canada did not have a face, a personality, or a family. Did you know that, yes, of course we have Henry, but there are many other in Henry's family? Like way more than I thought.
What is she talking about? Who's Henry? What are we talking about? Vacuum cleaners with a face? Seriously, what are we talking about?
I had to write them down because there's so many. So of course we have Henry, the patriarch of the Hoover family.
What? This kind of looks familiar. Like I've seen this image on Google before. This is a vacuum cleaner? I've heard of a Hoover. I think that's even a brand of vacuum cleaner. Henry Hoover? is, is this like normal in Britain? I'm being serious now. This seems oddly familiar to me. Like maybe this is on the internet or something. Or I've seen this in a video before. I didn't know this little guy, this is like a vacuum cleaner. Is it for children? Like, why does it have a face on it? Or maybe it's just fun. Like, is that as deep as it needs to go? It's just fun that it has a face? And there's more of them?
But we also have Henry Home, Henry Pet, Henry Allergy, Henry Extra Large Plus, Henry Cordless, Henry Wash, Henry Eco, and Henry Extra.
So this isn't like, this is serious business. This is serious vacuuming business in Britain. A lot of people own this vacuum cleaner with a friendly face on it. And there's lots of models, and this is popular. Okay, if I just looking at this, it comes across to me as almost like a joke or like a children's toy. I know that's like weird to say, but that's how far removed this is from our American vacuum cleaners. We don't have friendly faces on them. Maybe we should. It's kind of nice.
Then we have Hetty, seemingly the only female Hoover. We also have Hetty, but yellow, and Hetty, but lilac.
Are you
Then,
kidding me?
of course, we have James, George, Charles, and Harry. The whole family is here. Now,
Are you kidding me? What? Do the different names do different stuff? Or is it just like your personal preference if you want James instead of like George? Or do they do different stuff? Or this is a little confusing, but I kind of like it.
Now, years ago, I used to have just the classic Henry Hoover, and as much as I love his little face and his little smile, I actually kind of hated it. There was something that was so frustrating about hoovering, vacuuming my flat.
That's right. Oh my gosh. I'm remembering a little bit now. Hoovering. It's because she said the word hoovering. That is like a verb in Britain. British English. It means vacuuming. They're synonymous. They're synonyms. Hoovering is a word for vacuuming. I learned that at some point. I just didn't remember. And it comes from the word Hoover. And does that come from Henry Hoover? Like he created this word, hoovering? Oh my, so he's incredibly famous, if that's the case.
And his little squat body would get stuck on a corner, on an edge of something, and I'd be like tugging to try and get him loose. Drove me crazy. I don't like vacuuming on the best of days, so when Henry got stuck on something, I was gonna lose my mind. Now,
So, mixed review here about Henry Hoover. You're trying your best to do your vacuuming, and when you mess up or you get caught on something, you have to look down at like this little smiling vacuum cleaner, and well, for a lot of Americans, that would kind of creep us out, to be honest, because if you're British, maybe you grew up with this thing. You've known it your whole life. It's normal. For me, this is having a face on a vacuum cleaner, looking up and smiling at you when you stub your toe while vacuuming is strange. But I don't know, oddly kind of like wholesome and friendly as well. I don't know what to think about this.
another British thing that just makes sense, well, of course, it's browsing hours. Now, I naively did not know this was a thing until it was too late. So one day I went to the gym and I realized that I didn't have something for lunch. Like I literally just needed like chicken and one other thing. And I was like, okay, well, I'm disgusting from the gym, but I'm just gonna pop into Morrison's real quick, just run in, get my things and go home. So I get to Morrison's, I grab my two things.
What is Morrison's? I don't. Grocery store?
Run over to the tills and they're all shut. And I thought, is something wrong? Like, has something happened? There's nobody at the tills, but also the self-checkouts were locked. You could not use a self-checkout. So I'm standing there and I'm disgusting because, you know, sweaty and gross. And I'm holding my two things and I realized that there's like a little queue around the self-checkout. And I was like,
Okay.
I don't understand what's going on. We're all just standing around like lemons. And then I realized it was the store's browsing time, which
What?
still blows my mind. So basically,
Browsing time? It's the store's browsing time. I've never heard of this phrase before. It's for some reason it shuts down the store randomly. Is this a normal thing in Britain? I'm intrigued. It also sounds kind of inconvenient. There must be rules to this.
there are laws around trading hours in stores on Sundays. So from my limited understanding, for large shops in England and Wales, so shops of like a certain square footage,
What?
on Sundays they can only be open for 6 consecutive hours between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. But what I didn't realize is this particular Morrison's opened at like 9.
What?
So you had this like browsing hour, right? So the store is open and you can browse, but the shop is not legally trading.
It's what I think I get it. I'm not saying that I think this is normal or even good. There must be some kind of reason for this, labor laws or whatever it may be. I've never heard of this before. Sometimes in America, certain stores here are closed, or you can't buy alcohol on Sundays, or certain stores are just closed on Sundays. I think that almost has more of a religious background here in America. This, I don't know, just sounds like a weird British law. You can't have your store running for too many consecutive hours on a Sunday, which makes as much sense as our weird Sunday law, but I guess at least here in America, the store is like shut. In Britain, it's like you can walk in and look around, and it's really teasing you because you can't check out or buy anything. And she didn't even realize it till she tried to check out. So it's not like this is even really explained. If you're a foreigner, like trying to make your way around British stores, you might get fooled by this and not know what's happening.
The only time you could actually check out would be between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So like, I get it.
Okay.
It's like a little mini loophole. The store's still open. If you're doing like a big shop, you know, you could mosey on through the store, but you cannot check out until 10 a.m. It just,
Okay.
I get it. But it's also so weird.
Hello, I would like to talk about British taps. In particular, how much I love this one. Now, of course, British things that just make sense. I'm talking about separate hot and cold taps.
Okay. This is another one that I've heard of before. This weird, I mean, I know there's a history and a reason for separating the taps and for like safety and health back in the day and hot and cold water, but one thing I never truly understood is how common is this in the modern British house? Because this is like a fun fact that pops up a lot about British culture. Like, oh, the taps, the faucets are separated. How weird. It is weird. But also part of me thinks this can't be that commonplace nowadays, right? Now that we have the technology to make it one singular tap, I would think like new British homes would choose to do that, right?
Now you might be saying, Elena, that's not a separate hot and cold.
Yeah.
And yes, you would be correct. I have lived in 4 different properties here in England.
Okay.
This is the first one that has this, a combined tap.
I'm kind of shocked. That really surprises me. And I'm really glad she actually is talking about this. 4 places, 3 of them have had separate taps. So that answers my question. This is actually pretty common, at least in England, where it's separate taps. Maybe that's because the places she's living in or renting are a little older, I'm guessing. I just refuse to believe that new British buildings are still doing the separate taps if you don't absolutely have to, right? Right?
Another British thing that just makes sense is asking someone if they're all right and praying they don't actually answer. You want to be polite, but you don't actually want them to respond. Now this really
So this is like a British greeting. You are right. Right? I've heard of that. It's a British greeting. Very strange here in America. Doesn't make any sense, actually. And it actually means the opposite. It means, is everything okay? Something looks wrong. So that's already a big adjustment if you're trying to, exist in Britain as an American person. But on top of that, she's going into something that's also true here in America, funny enough. In America, we'll say, how's it going? How you doing? We're not looking for your life story. We're not even really asking about how your day is. Even though we might straight up say, how's your day going? We don't want a novel. We don't want the update. We just want you to say, good, thanks. And is that basically the same in Britain, I'm guessing?
really threw me for the first few years living in the UK, because back home in North America, if somebody asks you, are you all right? It's because you look like you're going to die. The only time you would ask anybody in North America, are you all right? Of course, Brits usually say you all right. They drop the R. You all right? Are you all right? Is because you look really, really bad.
Yes.
You're either actively crying or you're so horrible looking that they think you might pass away. So here in the UK, when a stranger would ask, you all right? I thought my instincts, my gut reaction was like, wow, I must look terrible today.
Yes, this is like classic. Luckily, I've heard this one a few times. This would not fool me. I do imagine, like her, many people from outside of Britain would be completely so thrown off by this. And I don't even know, like, if you're living in Britain, that's probably strange that we think that, because it's just a normal greeting in Britain, right?
Another British thing that just makes sense, a cup of tea can solve all your problems.
Oh.
Bad day at work? Have a cuppa. Just been dumped? Have a cuppa.
A cuppa. This phrasing has kind of confused me before. Like, is it short for have a cuppa? Have a cup of tea? That's what it must be short for, right? As for tea itself, yeah, not a thing here in America. That's very strange, because some people have like green tea or some kind of tea, and it's so rare. And if you do it in America, we're like, oh, you're having tea. Oh, how exotic. How sophisticated. Well, okay, tea. That's interesting. Whereas in Britain, it sounds like it's so normal. It's not interesting. It's I don't know. I'm not going to say it's boring, but it's just so typical, that you're having tea like every day, right?
Your house just burned down, your job made you redundant, and your wife left you? Have a cuppa. I've definitely turned the corner on tea. I never drank tea in Canada, ever.
Yeah.
Like probably twice in my 22 years of life living in Canada. And
Absolutely. Living here in America, like, how much have I had tea? Once? Like 15 years ago? That I can remember? Like, that my grandma gave me? I can't think of any other time. Seriously.
I still have a coffee every morning. That's not going to change. But there is something to be said, okay? There is something to be said about a nice cuppa. And sometimes, especially now, beautiful November, it's actually sunny out today, which is shocking. But guess what? That sun is going to set at 4:12. And it's gonna be dark.
Gosh, are we missing out? Are we missing out on something here? I've never thought about it. I've always kind of just dismissed the tea as a British thing. Maybe we're missing out. Like, we drink a lot of coffee. Coffee is our tea, I think. But British people, you probably drink coffee. You drink coffee and tea? One or the other? Both? I don't know. I actually don't know. Feel free to let me know about that. God knows I don't know what the heck I'm talking about with some of this stuff. But that's, the fun. Maybe we're missing out with some of this tea. I don't know. There must be something to it because it's so popular in Britain. I don't know.
Something that still I really struggle with, especially here on YouTube, is, how do I put this? Pronunciations. British people. What is going on? The UK knows how to spell words and how to pronounce them in ways that you would never imagine. Recently, I did a video about Bonfire Night, and there is a place in the UK spelled like this that has a...
That's so funny. Bonfire Night just happened, and I did a reaction to that as well. That's a funny coincidence. And another funny coincidence is I can totally relate to her. Totally! Completely relate to her. Because the British pronunciations kill me. They destroy me. They embarrass me. Man, a lot of people try to give me advice or give me a correction in comments and stuff, but God knows, like most Americans, I'm pretty hopeless at the British pronunciations. Stuff that ends in shire or Chester or, God, there's a lot of cities that I know. Birmingham, not Birmingham, Birmingham. I had to look it up. It's Lewis, I believe.
Huge bonfire celebration. It's very famous. Lots of people watch videos about it. To me, that looks like lose.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm an English speaker. That looks like lose. However, people tell me it is pronounced Lewis.
Yeah, totally. Like the river, not the Thames, but the Thames, or endless stuff like that. It's tough. I guess when you grow up and live in Britain, this is stuff you learn, like the same way you learn a language. You learn how to pronounce this stuff. So, yeah. I think most Americans, it's not just me, she's Canadian, it's not just her, all of us out here in North America, I guess, really struggle with British pronunciations, but it is what it is, I guess, and with that, I think we're at the end. That was very fun. Again, this was by Adventures and Naps. I gotta give it a like, because I liked that very much. These are some pretty fun observations she has about, British things that just don't make any sense to me, to Americans. But it all makes sense to British people. And I don't know, that just kind of explains the differences in our cultures. It's just normal. So I really did enjoy this, and I do feel like I learned something. So anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like, or leave a comment with your thoughts on any of these British cultural things that confuse me and confuse Americans. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Britain and learning about British culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.